Okay, awesome. Stick around because we're going to talk a little bit more about online, particularly now. Millions of Americans, of course, shopping from the comfort of their own homes this Black Friday. And while the computer used to be the traditional place to shop from home, the convenience of mobile phones is taking over. But our next guest says not so fast. Let's turn to cybersecurity expert, CEO of NightLion Security, Vinny Troia. Vinny, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. What's a top tip in terms of helping people avoiding being hacked or scammed while shopping online this weekend?
So I think online shopping isn't as much of a concern. I mean, certainly you want to make sure that you're doing it. If you're doing it from your home, you're probably okay. You want to make sure that you're not using your credit card at public Wi-Fi's or places like that. I think probably the bigger concern for consumers right now are the gas pumps. I mean, the technology with gas pump skimmers has evolved to such a new place where, I mean, they're completely undetectable now, where the devices literally slide into the credit card slot. And so consumers will have absolutely no way of knowing that that there's a skimmer in the device. So the device will actually just read credit card numbers. And so I think that's probably the bigger risk to consumers right now.
Hold on, I don't know what this is. Do you know what this is, this gas card skimmer?
Explain, Vinny. Go for it.
Sure. So it's a pretty kind of well-spread thing at this point, but basically criminals will go to gas pumps and they'll put literally this tiny device into the gas pump, and it will just read credit card numbers, and then they just kind of go back around to the devices and they pull the skimmer out. Yeah.
So Vinny, I mean, it's interesting this because it's fairly common thought that you can be hacked when you're buying online, but generally speaking, you're saying normal shopping when you go physically with your credit card is just as easy for people to rip you off during a busy period like this.
Sure, and actually, to some respects, I think physical shopping is probably more susceptible at this point. I mean, with all of the large data breaches that we've seen, I mean, companies like Target or Home Depot or whoever, the latest breaches, they're starting to kind of get their stuff together. And so, when you're shopping online, it is much more difficult to steal the information than it would be, physically, because then, you could literally just kind of, even as simple as stealing someone's wallet, or as I mentioned with the skimmers, if you're at a restaurant, they could use skimmers at the restaurant where they just kind of swipe it on the spot. So I mean, there's many more ways to physically get somebody's card number.
So Vinny, for people shopping in hardcore bricks and mortar stores, what do you think about the likes of Apple Pay? Is that something that adds another level of hackability, or something that actually protects shoppers?
No, so I love Apple Pay. I mean, Apple Pay and Google Pay. I mean, I think that is completely the future because it completely randomizes the credit card number. So whenever you make a transaction, the credit card number is never actually transmitted. I mean, it's a completely sort of encrypted number, and so there's literally nothing to steal. And so that's, I mean, if more people would adopt that, I mean, the problem would go away much faster.
Vinny, how much larger is this problem becoming, and what takes it away and what minimizes it?
I mean, there's no slowdown to credit card theft and credit card fraud. I mean, and really, at this point, the only thing consumers can do, unfortunately, is to just make sure they're looking at their credit card statements. And it's just one of those things where I hear from people all the time where, if I get fraudulent charges on my credit card, I'm not going to worry about it because I'll just call the bank and they'll reverse the charges. And it's not necessarily that simple all the time. I mean, the last thing you want is to look at your statement after a couple months and you realize you've been hit with the hind and you see all these charges that are just completely fraudulent mixed in with regular transactions, because
Vinny,
then
I'm confused. What about the chips? I thought the chips were going to...
Oh, no.
We ran a little, what we call a half slab. It says, don't put your trust in the chips, in the credit cards with the chips. Why not?
No.
I thought that was going to solve a lot of problems.
No, not at all. So the chip is only designed to prevent your card number from being imprinted on another card. But the actual chip, whenever you're doing a normal process, it transmits the card number completely unencrypted. So the skimmers work in the same way that they could literally just read the card number on a chip card the same way they would a regular card. I mean, it's not very effective at all.
And did I read in the notes that if you have an Android phone, you can stand near somebody else with an Android phone? Clarify for me.
Yeah,
what the vulnerabilities are there.
So it is possible. I mean, it uses a technology called NFC. I mean, it would take a lot. I mean, you literally have to be almost on top of the person in order to pull that off. So, I mean, as long as, if you're a consumer, don't leave your phone kind of laying around at the mall or wherever, and you'll probably be safe from that.
Vinny, are there a series of things that are no-brainers, low-hanging fruit stuff that should be done either through government regulation or the credit card companies or even individual users of credit cards to make the world more secure, make their own credit card information more secure?
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure if it's low-hanging fruit at this point. I think there's part of the problem is, even when you look at the gas pumps, the adoption of the EMV technology or the adoption of new technology to prevent fraud is very expensive. So it's a very time-consuming process. But from the consumer perspective, the best thing you can do is really just kind of stay on top of your statements and make sure, you don't have all these charges, and certainly don't use your debit card because the last thing you want is for your money to be drained out of your account.
Vinny, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate it.